What's up, Spartans, and welcome back to the Watching Now podcast over here on CouchSoup, where we are diving into every new episode of Halo Season 2, and we are already on episode 6, so we're almost at the end of the season. Things are getting intense, things are getting cool. Let's jump right into it and introduce the cast. You have myself, your host, Nick McKay. We also have, reporting for duty, Dan.
Word.
Tom. Okay. And the Soup Man is back. What's up, Drew?
Hello. I am back. Hello. I love you so much. Let's talk about it.
Hello.
Hello.
That didn't work. Sorry. So what's up, guys? Welcome back to the podcast. German. Hello. Okay.
Forget it.
We're moving on. What's up? Welcome back, everybody, and welcome back to you guys at home. So diving into episode 6 today, which is titled Onyx. We are finally on planet Onyx, and it's very exciting. But before we dive into that, I thought we could open the episode talking a little bit about the Spartans, because we haven't talked much about Spartans so far this series, have we? Every now and then, mention them every now and then. But the Spartans are actually, there's quite a lot of lore, quite a lot of deep history behind them. And we're getting into different versions of the Spartans now. So I thought it'd be a cool opportunity to talk about the different versions of the Spartans, because you get Spartan 2s, which Master Chief is one of those. Then you get Spartan 3s. There was a Spartan 1. There's like a whole bunch of them. So from our Halo experts, Dan and Tom, who have played through a lot of these games, give us a brief little synopsis of what makes the Spartan numbers different.
Okay, so from my knowledge, which I could be wrong, Spartan 1s is like Sergeant Johnson, which is just slightly, just like basically super steroids, I think.
Spartan 1s?
Yeah, like Spartan Johnson.
Spartan 1s were regular people who put on Mjolnir and then were murdered by the Mjolnir.
What's a Mjolnir?
Okay, then the armor.
The armor.
Oh, okay. Not the hammer that Thor wields.
Yeah. No.
So that's
different.
But the same name.
Yes.
Okay.
You're thinking of Sergeant Johnson
Spartan
would be
2.
a Spartan 4, wouldn't he?
Who would be? Who do we think's the Spartan one?
Johnson.
I think. Anyway,
You said it before we started recording. You had it the other way around.
Yeah. No, Johnson was
Spartan 1.
Because everyone was Spartan 1s. They were the Spartans we made along the way.
Everyone?
Everyone's a Spartan.
I don't understand. I'm more confused
We
now than I
are
was
Spartans.
before.
Halo expert, everybody.
Spartan 2s, stolen children, genetically modified to be super soldiers, have really strong shields and are like giant walking tanks. Spartan 3s are orphans of war, and they have slightly less augmentations, so like they more survived, and slightly weaker armor, but again, mass-produced, they could do a lot more stuff. Then Spartan 4s are just the enlistees that want to take the fight to the Covenant, and they have the Mjolnir armor, which they aren't as good, but again, there is more of them than 3s and 2s.
So the Spartan 1s, the Mjolnir armor murdered them, Dan.
Right, that's actually in the Fall of Reach.
Because it was just too much?
When they introduced the Mjolnir armor, it's basically like, you remember in Iron Man 2 when there was like the other industries was trying to copy the Iron Man suit, and they have a guy get in the suit and it just kills him? That's what the original Mjolnir armor did.
Wow.
Like the guy, like in the books in Fall of Reach, they were being told what happened with the first volunteers of the Mjolnir armor, and they were just regular people. They would get in the suit, and because of the suit's enhancements, a guy tried to move his arm, and it broke his arm. And then because he broke his arm, his pain and panic made everything else break, and he died.
I love this idea of them saying, hey, we've got this cool Mjolnir armor. We're going to name it after Thor's hammer and everything. And they get a dude to get in it, and it murders him.
It murdered
him. And they're
him
like,
instantly.
shit, that didn't work.
I mean,
let's try and make some new ones.
Let's do it again.
Well, that's how they did with the Spartan 2s.
Let's do it again with this time with kids.
The Spartan 2s were augmented so that they could survive the armor, essentially.
So, but to be clear, the Spartan 3s are supposed to be moderately augmented?
So
because they're not technically wearing Mjolnir, right?
Right,
Or
they're wearing SPI
version?
armor, not Mjolnir. The Spartan 3s were genetically enhanced, but the Spartan 2s were fully augmented with mechanical and genetic therapies and augmentations.
And then the Spartan 4s are just regular people wearing like
a new version of armor that doesn't kill them.
Oh, right. So in the show, are we expected to believe that these are Spartan 3s that have been augmented or no?
The new Spartans we got introduced to in today's episode are Spartan
Right.
3s.
Right, but
Are
they
they
don't.
Spartan 3s?
They combine 3 and 4s. We'll get to that when we
Okay,
get to the
okay,
breaking
okay,
bar.
okay. All right,
All right.
Yeah.
We'll save that for the episode. There's like a lot happening with the Spartans and things.
And it seems, oh yeah, we'll get into it. Let's go. Let's go.
Let's get into it. So with that bombshell, let's get into our sit rep for episode 6, Onyx, of Halo Season 2. Alrighty, jumping into the episode, and I say jump because we had a space jump to start off. How freaking dope as hell was that opening scene?
That was straight out of the books too.
That was cool.
Friggin'
I actually thought it was.
dude,
I didn't think it was this. It was so good. I didn't think it was a simulation. Like they got
So
me.
did I.
They got me.
Yeah, completely,
fake.
dude.
Head fake.
I'm super
Yeah.
pumped to see Perez. Like, Perez is going to be a Spartan. Let's go.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so walk me through
Sure.
that though. Like, so she escapes and then like somehow meets up with, like, because the fleet left hours, if not like almost like a full day before like the
My
the
assumption
reach.
is her whole family got murdered, and she heard, "Hey, we need people to be new Spartans," and she went, "Me."
Okay,
Mm.
so she dropped off those
Yeah.
refugees somewhere and was like, "I'm gonna go join the fight."
Pretty much.
Because the time that, because even when John woke up from his injuries in the past episode, they're like, "You've been out for days," and then he went back to sleep, and then like, "How long have I?" He was like, "Another day" or whatever. So it's been like almost like a week or so or more probably since the fall at Reach. Like it's been probably a hot minute.
I was gonna say that because like I have a note saying like Perez is a Spartan now, kind of like she's a Spartan because of that. Like I think it would have helped the show to have maybe a scene of like a flashback of Perez being augmented.
Maybe they haven't been augmented yet.
That's what I'm thinking as
Like,
well.
they're still
Maybe
just doing
she's not been
training.
augmented. Yeah, so like Tom is saying, maybe it's a mix of like Spartan 3s and 4s. So 3s are augmented a little bit, 4s are just enlistees.
Mhm.
Enlistees. That's a difficult word. Volunteers.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking maybe she hasn't been augmented yet because it's like Drew's saying, it's very quick. I mean, Chief was out for 2 days and then went back to sleep for another day. So that's 3 days. And the gap between last episode and this one could be another couple days, but that's very quick for her to just be like, cool, I'm a Spartan now.
Yeah, but we don't know how long they spent on that planet doing the burial. Like, I mean, that a couple days there, and then like we don't know how long it took them to figure out where to go. Right? I don't know. I mean, I feel like we can extrapolate that it's probably been a couple months or a month or something, right?
You probably assume there was a time jump between end of last episode to this one, and they just like it cut it out just to make sure like we got to the cool stuff.
Keep things moving.
So it's just like
Yeah. It seems convenient that like there's a whole Spartan 3 army already, and like they have suits, and like it I don't know. It just seems like, oh wow, okay, cool. Like we've
all of a sudden.
I agree. It did feel sudden, but it was cool. It was cool, that scene, like
It was
them
cool,
infiltrating the ship, and the FPS of her like with their eyes, and like the chaoticness of that battle felt interesting. And it was interesting to see people just getting waxed, but you're not really seeing the enemy. It was kind of weird, right?
Yeah, I was like, where are the enemies that are shooting at them?
Yeah, like, and I think that's when I was like, okay, the simulation made sense, because I was glad, because I thought it felt a little cheap. I was like, oh wow, they're showing a lot of action without showing action. It was kind of a weird. It was like a lot of explosions and death, but not a lot of like seeing other pew-pews from the other side, right? Like it was kind of strangely shot, I thought at first, but then the fact that it was a simulation kind of made me okay with it.
Made sense. Yeah. It was really cool to see that action scene, because we got some cool FPS stuff as well, where we got to see through their visors and see their whole like HUD and everything. And it was like, it told you how many grenades they had and things. So that was pretty cool to see, because we got a little bit of that in season 1 where we saw through Chief's eyes. So that was cool.
I always
like
love the little love, like
the
love letters to the games and those little kind of things, those little touches.
Always very cool. So we do find out eventually that it was a training simulation all along. So it was kind of, I think it's quite like an important part of the episode, is that that was a training sim, and their whole job was to get onto a Covenant ship and then spike it with this device that would then shut the ship down. And we think, okay, cool, it's just a training simulation, but there's a lot more to that I want to talk about. We'll get to that later. But Kai is there, and we have some strong feelings about Kai, don't we, Tom?
Fucking shithead.
She didn't know.
Whoa!
She didn't know.
Okay. All right, we'll get into those bad words. We need a swear jar on this show.
He's British. He's allowed to say it.
I'm not British, you dumb fuck.
Whatever. I was trying to give you an out.
You have the British flag on your flag, so you kind of
Exactly.
British.
I mean, it's kind of okay. You guys worship the same queen. So
Jeez, before we start World War III, let's move on. So Kai is there, and Kai is training the new Spartans, the Spartan 3s, or we assume they're Spartan 3s at this point. But she is very much no nonsense again. But we get to walk around the UNSC base and everything, and something that I think was really cool is we got to see some Master Chief posters, and one of them said "Finish his fight," which is like a pretty good finish this fight or finish this.
Finish the fight from like Halo 3.
Yeah.
All those posters seem to have some sort of play on words
there
from the actual games.
And that's what I was going to say. The way they kind of framed and shot and or drawn, it looks like propaganda to an extent. So I think that it's interesting. They're almost like they're using Master Chief as like this beacon of like, you should follow us, even though they completely abandoned the guy.
Well, they've been using that. They were using it before, and now they're using it assuming he's a martyr, right? Like, so they're sort of like planning to use him, and that comes up later with Ackerson and the Admiral, where they're talking about how do we're supposed to use, even if he's dead, we could still use his name, right? Like that's the whole plan. It's sort of like on a boardroom table, and the camera's panning over, and they're talking, and you're kind of like, okay, like two bad people scheming over how to take advantage of Chief's assumed death, right? Kind of.
It's just it's just a PR meeting.
Yeah, it was. It was like,
totally.
Do we like this poster or this poster? I think we could
colors.
More gold in his visor would be really nice. Thanks. Yeah.
All the gold. That's the best thing about his visor.
Yeah.
Was helmet in general.
Can we get a little more light? A little more light shine. Maybe reflection in there. That would be really good. Thanks.
It's like a scratch and a dent here and there.
Yeah.
Make it look hopeful.
That's true. Yeah, a little more dirt. Like he's seen some action. Let's get some battle scars.
Oh, he's seen some things.
Yeah.
We move on from there, and we see that the Admiral Parangoski. I'm getting names right this episode, guys. I swear I'm getting names right. Parangoski. I don't believe it either. Parangoski and Ackerson, they seem pretty friendly with each other early on in this episode. They seem pretty like, hey,
they've probably been working together for a while, honestly.
Absolutely. And it's interesting how that changes later, but they seem pretty friendly, and they have some idea that Halsey and Chief have been seen alive. I think Parangoski says that she has someone on Alaria that saw someone who looked like Halsey, and a biggest person they've ever seen, a big dude with some scars and stuff. And it's like, okay, obviously that's Chief. And they seem a little bit nervous. And then we have such a cool shot where we see binoculars looking at the base, and then Chief pulls them down.
Yeah.
And then intro sequence. I was like, oh, Chief is coming.
Can we talk about Parangoski? That whole character thread of her like leaving the UNSC and then not leaving. Like, it doesn't make, like, why just keep her there? Like, why? What was the point of that subversion? I don't understand. Like, Tom, tell me.
I was gonna say to manipulate Chief.
But to what end? Like, to why? Because he ended up doing whatever he wanted to do anyway. Like, she didn't have any control over him.
Because remember, like, when in episode he went to her to like try and work stuff out. So then she was like, "You report to me." So it's like anything that Chief sees, like Ackerson can do his thing of like, discounting funds, but she will answer all the information that John has for the Covenant, and then still.
But John went and just told Ackerson the same. He went and said, "Hey, there's Covenant probably on our planet." I don't believe you. It's, hey, Ackerson, or hey, Parangoski. Hey, I think there's Covenant on the planet. Well, I don't know. Well, is it real? Like, it was just. I was like, he's telling everybody the same shit, and then no one's like giving him the light of day, and so he ends up doing his own shit. It just felt. I don't know. I didn't quite. That just felt like a weird. It just didn't. It felt pointless. I don't know.
I feel like Paragasi is kind of one of those like sort of Nick Fury type of characters that's like they've always got another plan, they've always got another thing. So it was like when they were thinking about letting her go or something like that, she was like, "Ooh, but I've got dirt on this person," or she's spoken to Cortana to get her to do something in exchange for saving Chief's life. I think she's always got like a backup plan kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's her role very much here. She's that character that's like always going to get away with it, or always going to have that little trump card to play. We'll have to see how that develops. But moving back into the episode, we come back from the intro sequence, and Kai is training super hard. She's in a simulation of Reach, of the battle at Reach and stuff,
The
and she's
actual
kind of
hallway
fighting
that they were fighting in at the end of.
the exact same hallway. And it was like it very much implies that
As
she
soon
wished
as
she
I
could
saw
have been
that, I
there
was
to
like,
help fight and
she
things
didn't
like that.
know. She was back there. She was putting herself in that position, thinking like, I should have been there. I should have been with my squad. You know.
But how would they
That was
know?
100%, and she it gets revealed then as well when Ackerson gets in there. She has no idea about Ackerson's plan and about what happened on Reach and things like that. Ackerson just manipulating the crap out of her again. And at least there was that, because I had a feeling that they might have like done something where Ackerson told Kai everything, and Kai was like, "I don't like it, but I'm siding with you." I thought maybe they were going to do that with her, but I'm glad that she's still kind of in the dark about these things.
I thought he kind of did. Didn't he kind of say like, "Here's the deal. We
He does that later.
Oh yeah.
Later.
Oh yeah. Later.
Mm.
But how
gonna get
did
into some great
did they just assume they had like scans of the entire building of?
Maybe they get battle data from people's weapons and whatnot, or cameras, or computers and AI. I mean, Cortana apparently can see everything, so
yeah, I guess so. I don't know. It felt a little weird. Like, how would they know like the hallway was a key battle point there? Like, I don't. It kind of felt a little weird. Like, I didn't quite understand why. How
It's
she
obviously
would
the
be
show.
in that hallway.
It's obviously the show like really trying to hammer down and show us that Kai wishes she could be at that exact battle, even though she doesn't know that happened. So it's kind of that symbolic, like she wanted to be right there, even though she doesn't know about all of that stuff. So I guess that's why I did it. But I also felt that like it's the exact hallway with the one side blown out that you can see Reach. Like it's exactly the same. How do they know?
It felt like lazy production. They were like, we can reuse this set again. Like film her, right? Like it didn't feel like smart storytelling. It felt like lazy production design. Like they could have put her anywhere on Reach fighting, right? Like why did it have to be the hallway where that happened where Vanek died and Chief got, like it just felt a little.
I just took that to mean she wanted to be where she knows they went down, or at least she thought they went down, because as far as they knew, everyone died there.
But how did they? Like I don't.
There could have been reports that that's where Master Chief died.
Oh yeah,
maybe that's what they were told.
Yeah, everybody died in that hallway.
They didn't know that they
get
left
away on that ship, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not like people survived to go tell the story.
Well,
right?
I suppose Perez could have given a report saying that's where we were.
True.
When she took off before that hallway battle happened. Like she lit the flame, took off, and then they got pushed into the hallway, and then the battle in the hallway happened.
Well, back with the good guys, the group, I guess we're calling them the good guys. And Halsey knows where they took Kessler. Like the exact, it seems like the exact place. She knows exactly where Kessler is, and they head to Onyx. And we obviously know they're on Onyx already because Chief is kind of spying on them. And I love this. I love how it starts because Chief and Soren's interests align pretty nicely. I think it's tied up pretty nicely in the fact that Soren wants to get Kessler back from the UNSC, and Chief wants to confront the UNSC. I feel like they kind of align nicely to work together, and I can see them fighting together some more.
Convenient. Convenient. However you want to,
like why was Kessler taken? Why was okay? Anyways, we'll do that. Quan, we see she's seeing things again. She's seeing the old cult lady again, the Sanctuary Shaman as she's called. Surely this pays off next season because I mean this is Flood, right?
It has to pay off this season. Otherwise, we're gonna be like, what the fuck?
It's a lot of alluding and.
Well, we said this about Quan last season. We said she has a story that like doesn't tie into anything that's happening in the main story. Surely it's got to pay off, and it didn't. She just went to Madrigal and said hi to some people and then left.
Yeah,
but surely they can't do the Flood stuff as well this season.
But how does this mystical lady Flood person know about these like hidden rooms on this planet? Like it's sort of starting to feel a little like
there's an explanation in the books. Onyx is a Forerunner shield world, so it's connected to Forerunners and Flood.
Okay. All right.
So there's an explanation. Like it's all, which is why
It's
there's
all there.
All
It's
the
all
deeper
there.
lore
Right.
and
It's
narrative.
all there.
All
Just
right.
when Quan and her story gets good, it just gets confusing again.
Yeah,
Like, oh,
I
there's
guess
mythical ladies.
as someone
Whoa.
who's not into the lore, it does feel a little like you're starting to like you're hoping that it's going to pay off, and I'm sure maybe they'll get there. Yeah, I have a feeling it won't be as heavy-handed. It'll be pretty subtle, and it'll brush by it, and people just be like okay with it. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, starting from there, where we have the group on Onyx, just like that, everybody scatters. Like for some reason, everyone just splits off and does their own thing.
Totally.
Halsey's missing; she's just gone.
She's just gone.
Chief just starts attacking some guys that I think were shooting at Quan, and then he gets captured. Quan's following some lady through the woods. Lyra and Sora just head off on their own mission. I was like, "Jeez!"
I
It was like
know.
someone dropped a coin, and everyone just went.
That was so chaotic. Like there was no
It's like
explanation. Yeah.
It's like the typical horror movie or like the Scooby-Doo episode where they're like, okay, gang, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna split up.
Now, hold on a second there, mister. We're going after some creepy ghost person, and you want us to split up? Well, yeah.
Yeah. And it was like no one communicated with anybody what was going on either. So like
Nothing.
you have no idea. Like no one has any idea where anybody is on this planet. Like
It's so
zero.
great. It was
Zero
so
clue.
funny. I was like, I've written down here, but I was going to say it's so many things happening so fast. Like everyone's just running off and like we're starting a whole bunch of stories. Like what's happening?
Yeah. And it was filmed in a weird way. You really have no idea like a juxtaposition of where someone is in comparatively. Like we don't know where Soren and them are comparatively to where like Halsey is, or yeah, like it was just sort of like just felt like chaos. All you know is John can beat the shit out of as many Marines as he wants to.
Oh, dude.
which
Oh,
was
we're gonna
cool.
get to that. We're gonna get to that, which was freaking cool. So an interesting part where Halsey eventually Quan finds Halsey and they get into this like little cave system and stuff, which we'll get onto a little bit later. But while they're walking around and trying to find their way and stuff, Halsey and Quan have a pretty interesting conversation where Halsey says to Quan that she ruined her best work, which was Master Chief. And I was like, I don't know if it was specifically Quan, but obviously she's referring to Chief taking out his pallet and getting his free will and things like that. I thought that was kind of interesting. Is there a little bit of resentment that Halsey has?
Yeah, like, and it's cool. I was mad I missed last week's episode because I wanted to talk about this where Quan first meets John again, and there was sort of like little to no. They're like kind of like nod at each other, like hey, and I was kind of like, no, like you're a big deal. Like you're the catalyst for season 1. Like him bringing her back to Reach, and then him deciding not to like because they were going to execute her probably, and him saying I'm not going to do that, which was disobeying an order, and that was the moment, that was the catalyst for this whole thing. Like that set everything in motion, is where we are today. So it was kind of a big deal. I thought they brushed over in that episode last week, but they she kind of brings it up this week, which made me feel a little bit better about it because I felt like it should have been more of a big deal.
That's what I was saying last week. I think I tried to throw it to Dan and Tom and saying like, yeah, there was very little reaction between them. What do we think of that? And we kind of didn't talk much about it. But I was like, yeah, I feel like there should have been more. It's like two characters they very much both set each other off on this path of doing something. So it was nice to sort of turn back around and have Halsey kind of say, listen, you kind of started all of this, you bitch. It's quite interesting.
They didn't spend much time together if you think about it. I think like we said like 2 episodes, not 2.5. So in terms of like the timeline of the entire show, they weren't together long, and it's the first chance Chief got. He was just like, go.
Yeah, and the majority of the time she's just like, are you going to kill me? Are you not going to kill me? We're leaving? Okay, cool. Now you're dumping me with this guy on this rock? Thanks, friend.
I think that moment meant more to the audience than it did to the characters.
Meant more to the
disconnect.
Yeah, it's more about like this idea that that moment it means a lot, and I think it's kind of interesting that Halsey sees that, right, and maybe John doesn't because he's sort of more singular, like more focused in the moment, where Halsey's a little bit more like I see the larger picture, right, which is kind of interesting. So I think from a character play, that's actually pretty good that she was able to kind of see that and bring it up. It shows that her character is actually pretty smart and witty and understands the pieces like of the chessboard, which is cool.
All right, so moving on from that, we've got a pretty intense, pretty interesting scene next, where we go back to the Arbiter and McKee, not Mackie, McKee, and the Arbiter is like completely topless. He's got no armor on or anything. He's like completely. I thought he was naked at one point. I was like, whoa, hey.
Pan that camera
And
down.
He's. But he brands himself with some kind of symbol. Do you guys know what that symbol was?
They branded the original Arbiter in the games. Like, he gets branded as the Arbiter, but he did it to himself, which was
and also did it in the middle and not on the side.
Yeah. Oh, is it normally supposed to be on the side?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the armor like makes sure like people can see it, know that he's branded or some whatever thing like that.
In the games, he's like held up, and they stick the brand in him so that everyone can see that he is the Arbiter, that he is carrying the shame.
And what's the shame?
Well, just the failure, and that what made him become the Arbiter is because of his failure. Now he has to redeem himself through like selfless sacrifice, essentially.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, that whole scene was kind of interesting for me because he has a priest with him, which is another thing we were talking about last week. We were talking about the priest, and there was a priest character that we thought maybe this guy could turn into. I forget what we called him. What was his name?
Heretic.
The heretic.
Heretic. That's it. So I feel like he's kind of like they're amping up to that in a way because he has this priest with him, and it gets a lot more intense a little bit later. But there seems to be like a heavy religious kind of vibe to his story. So he's like, it's. I don't think this Arbiter is going to turn and become the good Arbiter. I think we've already established he's got a different name and everything.
Yeah, it seems like it would make. Yeah, he's got a different name from the original Arbiter, and I think it is kind of leaning into that notion that Tom had thrown out there about him becoming the heretic, essentially.
I think that's it'll be an interesting turn for him to sort of turn into the heretic and kind of, it could be a whole wild mess of things. So I'm liking where the Arbiter's story is going. And Mackie, I mean, McKee. Shit. McKee. I'm going to edit that out. McKee.
Big Mackie.
Her story. I really feel like her story is on a knife's edge. Like, it can kind of go anywhere. I feel like her life is very much in danger. It's certainly in this scene. I mean, it develops a little bit towards the end of the episode, but it very much seems like she's stuck in the middle of a lot of like the decisions that are being made with the Covenant and with the Arbiter. The Arbiter kind of seems like, okay, this human woman can give me what I want, but she has to sort of stay in line, kind of thing. And there's an interesting part where Cortana, I can't remember exactly what she says, but she kind of seems to be showing some concern for McKee. Do you think that Cortana is like starting to kind of be like, oh, I need to protect this woman? Maybe she's like, we have to protect this woman in order to find Halo.
I think it links back to what happened later on, where like it was just her job to get info.
Yeah.
So she's just like you can't die. You can't die yet because otherwise I need a mission. So like, I kind of need you still.
Right. She's trying to get info on the Covenant for the Admiral.
Yeah, that was an interesting. Okay. Yeah. I mean, do we want to dive into that? Because that felt like you just gave the Covenant an AI that's incredibly powerful in hopes that AI would then be able to give you like some hints on where their fleet is or what's going on. Like, that's like saying like, hey, Germany, here's how to actually build a nuke, but don't use it on us. But that nuke hopefully will, I don't know, like it was like, what? Like,
that's the player thinking about Parangosky. Parangosky's like, let's give them Cortana because she's got a plan of how to use that against them in a, like, they think, oh, we've got this super intelligent AI we can use to help us, but at the end it kind of bites them in the ass. That's why I feel like Parangosky's got these plans and all these different wheels in motion.
Trying to do some more things on it. Like,
so is Nick Fury. So what are your thoughts? Is Cortana able to be controlled or not? Is she
acting independently at this point?
So she has
I want to bring that up. I want to bring that up later. I really want to bring that up later.
Okay.
So pin.
But I do want on this scene, on this point too. There's the whole thing with Cortana talking to McKee, and you're talking about what McKee is trying to do, and like she actually told the Arbiter like, oh, it's a human piece of technology, but she doesn't explain how important it is and how much it actually has. The Arbiter's like, whatever, get this human trash away from me.
Right.
He doesn't know that they basically have like the big unlock button to all of human civilization right in front of them. That's a whole narrative in the games is we can't ever let the Covenant capture a ship. We can't let them capture an AI.
I know.
You know, like
that's why.
that's why even Cortana, they have an initiative built into them that they have to self-destruct essentially if there's any chance of them getting captured to protect the human race.
I guess that's why I was shaking my head. I'm like, I don't like Paragon. Like, she's either the dumbest admiral ever, or incredibly brilliant. I'm not sure, but it feels that plan felt very like really you just
haphazard.
Yeah, like not quite the way I would have gone about that. I don't know, you know, but whatever.
Luckily, they didn't know that little box was an AI, apparently, or one of the smartest AIs ever.
Well, McKee does, clearly, right? I mean,
but she's also utilizing Cortana, which we find out in this episode because she can't use the keystones anymore.
So are we assuming that Cortana knew all of this and planned it as part of like, I know what's going to happen. They're going to come and get me. McKee's going to need me in order, and I will manipulate her to give me access to the ship, and then I'll be able to like relay you. Like it kind of all like there's a lot of fucking variables to kind of play out, and even in an AI, like holy shit.
So moving on to the next scene, we get back to the UNSC or to Onyx, and we see Perez is doing another drill, and they're trying that drill of infiltrating the ship again, and she's starting to show some initiative. I think maybe she wants to sort of not redeem herself, but like she saw Key as a sacrifice and what happened on Reach. So I think she kind of wants to join the fight and try and do what she can, which I think is interesting. And seems like Kai is pretty pleased with it. She's kind of like, okay, this soldier's working pretty hard. Then they have a mission where they're actually able to pull off, getting that spike into the ship and disabling the ship, and then they get exfil and they're able to get out, and it's like mission success, and everyone celebrates, and everyone's like, oh yeah. But what's interesting is Perez then says, why was the exfil so easy? Like, why were we able to get out of there so easy? It seemed like as soon as we put the spike in, there were no more Covenant. Like, it was super easy. I don't know if this was supposed to be like planned differently or anything, but what I got from this was that this is a proper 100% suicide mission. Like, they don't train them for exfiltration because there is no exfiltration. They're not supposed to get out. This is a vanguard. Get in there, blow the ship up, and yourselves. And we're not going to tell you.
We're not going to simulate the part afterwards because there is no part afterwards.
Right.
Exactly that. Yeah.
You don't make it. I'm sorry.
You don't make it, but we're not going to tell you that. And I like how Perez is already questioning it. She's like, this is weird.
Which feels weird as in the sense that, like, I think a lot of people would volunteer even if they didn't make it, knowing that it would make a major blow to the Covenant after what just happened to Reach, right? Like, it seems weird that they have to make that like a hidden agenda, right? Like, where I'm like, well, I think a lot of these soldiers probably would go on a suicide mission to get something for a fatal blow.
Like, how that would play out in Starship Troopers if after Buenos Aires, they all went and run into that bug planet and just all got murdered.
Yeah. See, totally. Yeah. Oops.
Oh, what a great movie, dude. Anyways, we're back with Chief, and Chief is being restrained by chains and 6 guys. I just thought this was so funny. He walks in there chained up, and there's just 6 guys that have got him like, oh, don't let this guy go. And I'm laughing because it's like 6 guys. It takes 6 guys to like hold Chief down, and then once he's kind of talked to everyone, he says he wants the admiral, he wants to speak to Parangoski, and then as soon as he's like, okay, it's time to make my move, effortlessly it's just like and he takes everybody out.
I was so expecting during that initial scene when they're walking him in, I want him to just look at them and be like, I can get out of this at any time, right?
Yeah.
But my favorite thing too was after he had the chat with like the commander, Brooks, I think was her name, or Briggs. She leaves, and then he looks at the one guy who's trying to put the one chain down first, and then he makes eye contact, and he's got those really bright, like baby blue eyes. He's like, "Oh, you're the first. You're going down."
I loved as well. There was when he was taking out all those guys. I actually laughed out loud. Is that Chief had a guy who was holding him, and he was about to punch him, but then he was stopped by the restraint, so he pulled the guy up higher and then punched him.
Why do I feel like it would be like getting punched by Captain America? Like all those guys are probably dead. Like if you can punch somebody where they go flying into a wall, you shattered that dude's skull. Like I'm sorry, like that guy's dead. Like
Yeah, Briggs said like I've got 10 guys that are
Yeah.
injured. One of them might die, and I was like, really? Because Chief hit them pretty hard.
like yeah, when you
Like,
go
that's-
flying up against the metal door, like I'm pretty sure you shattered your spine. Jesus Christ. It's good though.
Oh,
it's fun
so
to watch.
funny.
It's fun to watch them just beat the shit out of like people. Like it's kind of they do a good job of choreographing those scenes. It's cool.
But what's interesting, this whole thing has been recorded, and Ackerson then showed Kai the footage of Chief beating up everyone, and he's still very much playing games with Kai, saying that Chief is. He tries to. I think this is kind of like a last resort, like a Hail Mary play for Ackerson. He says to Kai that no, like he thinks now that he's swapped sides and that he's working with McKee. So like Chief's like probably working for the Covenant now, and like I think Kai, I kind of got a sense at the beginning that Kai just ate this up, and she was like, oh yeah, Chief's the enemy now.
Well, she
But I
initially
think there's
was
still
like, he's
there's those
alive.
seeds.
You know, like she clearly
Yeah,
was completely taken back by the fact that he was still alive. But then you get Ackerson just feeding her all of that stuff that was like, oh, it just is so convenient. And it's hard for her to not say, yeah, you're probably right.
Mhm.
I still like I wish they're making it's unfortunate they're making her pretty like gullible. Yeah, and I was hoping she would kind of see through a little bit of it, but they didn't go that route. It doesn't look like, because here's the deal: like if McKee was a vision, like a not real, I could definitely see her being like, okay, yeah, he's lost it, right? Like he's definitely like, but like Ackerson even confirms, like, yeah, McKee was on this planet and she was on this planet, and that's where he converted her again, right? Like, so she confirms McKee was on Reach, right? Like to her, like she's alive. Which would make her think like, oh, John was right. Like this whole time, like everything John did was actually right, and all those decisions he was making to make her doubt him ended up being correct. So like I'm sort of like he's giving her the knowledge for her to kind of put it all together. That like, I don't know, mate. I think you're the fucking idiot here. Like, so I was a little like, okay, you're making Kai feel a little stupid.
I took it to be that she was actually like calculating things, and she actually was like letting him think that she was taking into it, because then they play out the scenes that we're getting to, but then there's a later line where she says to Ackerson that she's like, I trust him, and she takes everything that she says as gospel at that point. So I think maybe she was playing Ackerson at that point after she sees that
it could be
alive.
I mean, I kind of saw it as like she's putting together all the information throughout the episode. Obviously later on Ackerson tells her kind of the truth, which we'll get to that, but I think it's that. So I think that's how they wrote it for her, was that like they give her bits of information as the episode progresses and she starts putting two and two together. But Drew, you're absolutely right. At the beginning, she's very gullible to the point of like, Chief is still alive. What's he doing here? There must be something going on. And instead of saying, Ackerson, tell me the truth. Tell me exactly what happened, because this is all a bit fishy. She's kind of just going along with it. But I think, like I said, I think she's just trying to piece things together.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, Ackerson's a pretty A-class like douchebag manipulator here. Like he's really Dickerson. Like even the point where he throws it back at her. Like if you can come up with a better solution, let me know. Like, and that was pretty like, I was like, that's really good. Like because she doesn't have the time to kind of like, she's not that strategic to kind of
tell
like,
me how Chief got off for Reach, you know?
And it's kind of like, oh, okay, right. And the fact that she can't come up with something right away, like she's gonna default to whatever his story is. So I really did like that play. Like there were some really good lines there that made me think like, okay, he's good at what he does, which made it more believable for her to do what she does.
Moving on from that, we go back to McKee and Cortana, and they are trying to locate the halo. What was very interesting in this scene was McKee. She says that she's lost her connection to the artifacts. I'm guessing. Why do we think this is? So she says she's lost her connection, and
she died.
She says she. That's what I was going to allude to. Because she says she can't go there without him. Obviously, that means Chief. She said something shifted between them. Maybe it was because they banged. I don't know. But what do we think? What do we think shifted? What do we think's changed with McKee? Because it seems like she's lost her connection to the artifact. Because we see later that they actually the Covenant or the Arbiter has the bigger artifact. I actually didn't remember that or didn't know that they have the bigger artifact. So surely McKee's trying to touch it.
Yeah, they took it originally when they went to Sword Base.
Oh yes, correct. Yes. So I'm wondering, like, is she lost her connection to it, or what are we reading into that? Because it's pretty, like, that's pretty intense. And I was gonna say, do you think it's when she died? Maybe when she was revived, she lost her connection to it or something?
She gave it to Chief via osmosis.
This is the hand signal for osmosis.
Yes, it was a double entendre.
We're keeping it clean here on Watching Now.
Yeah, sure we are. I would say it's like the Avatar state from Avatar Last Airbender. When Aang's in it, he gets shot, he can't do it anymore. So it's like a similar thing. Like she was connected to the artifact, got shot, and now like maybe it's like a mental thing or like something like that. That's why she can't do it
comparing
anymore.
it to Avatar.
Interesting. Like when Spider-Man loses his powers in Spider-Man 2.
If you've got a better explanation, Dan, I'd love to hear it.
Don't you Ackerson
Okay,
me?
Ackerson.
Nice.
Oh, that was great.
I don't know.
Oh,
actually, that's a good point. They don't really explain that, and maybe they don't need to. I don't know.
Maybe when they banged, she passed her connection over to Chief like an STD.
Like I said,
that's what Dan was. That's
the theory.
What Dan was insinuating there.
That's
how
osmosis
works.
That is not how osmosis works, kids.
I don't know if
Don't write that in your tests.
I also think that there's definitely a notion here that we learned that McKee has lost her connection. So she has no value to the Covenant anymore. And they don't know that. So they're going to murder her on the spot as soon as they find out. And she's doing everything in her power to avoid that. Like she even says to the Arbiter, like he's like, "Have you touched the keystone lately?" And she's like, "Of course I have. I'm the chosen one. I've definitely touched the keystone." You know. So she's trying to like make them not realize that she can't do it anymore. So now she's looking to
saying
Cortana.
Her story's on a knife's edge. I feel like she could just be murdered at any time.
Literally, knives have been pointed at her multiple times throughout the episodes.
Yeah.
But after that, we get back to Quan and Halsey. What were they looking for? I don't understand. Where was Halsey going here?
It was a previous base of hers. That was hers. Like she used to be a part of that facility.
Right.
So I think she was trying to use it to get into the Onyx base. And then they find that it's boarded off.
Okay. Yeah, because so Quan was pretty much following her visions. It was an interesting part where Halsey says, "No, the whole cave system has changed." I don't know if that's like the planet terraforming or they just dug it out in different parts and things.
Yeah,
I didn't really understand that, but
Forerunner stuff that Tom mentioned.
It could be something along those lines. Yeah,
the Forerunner shield worlds are just giant like artificial planets, so there is a chance that you can.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
like Legos.
So that whole planet is artificial, is what you're saying?
If they're keeping it the same as the game stuff, then yes, Onyx is the shield world.
Interesting. So that could be a hint to that. That could be useful in the next episode or next 2 episodes. That's pretty interesting. But in terms of their direction, Quan is very much following that shaman lady. For some reason, we have no idea why. But she's just following him, and then they kind of just sneaking around these cave systems, and we're like, okay, I guess you guys can do that. I mean, it didn't feel like there was any purpose in their stories. They were just sneaking around.
I mean, it's sort of hard for me to like if I start seeing people, I'm going to go to the person next to me and be like, hey, by the way, I'm following this person. Do you see this person? No. Maybe I'm not someone. Something's wrong. Like I'm having weird visions. I'm following some crazy lady through these caverns. I don't know. It just seems weird. She keeps like, why do these people always keep these moments to themselves? I'm like, it's like, I don't know.
Because she's
Killer Quan.
Yeah.
Just because she's Killer Quan, and we just roll with it. Roll with it, baby.
Killer Quan. That's her street rapper name.
Yeah, Killer Quan. Dropping fire next September.
That's right.
Anyways, we head back to Chief, and Chief is now in the base. He's escaped from his captors, and he's now sneaking around the base. I'm so glad that they didn't delay on this. It's something I wanted to mention. I'm so glad they didn't delay on like Chief getting to, Kai and Ackerson and Onyx. I'm glad we didn't get like a filler episode of them like traveling or trying to build up someone else's stories. I'm glad we're kind of getting to the point with all of these things. And then here it is. Kai walks in, and the very first thing Chief says to Kai is that they lost Vanek. And it's like that moment, like I was waiting for like the big reveal of like telling Kai exactly what happened and to see how that all plays out. And Chief tries to tell Kai the truth, but you can see Kai's still sort of unsure. She's still kind of debating it and fighting with it. This is one of the big scenes of the episode. So what did you guys think of this? Just the beginning part. We'll get into what Kai does next. But what do we think of that setup for this scene? I think his reaction was a little bit softer because of what happened with Riz at the end of last episode, where Riz is like, she's like, I'm not coming with you, and he's like, stand up, soldier, and that's when she was like on her crutches, and it's like, dude, chill. And I think that Chief is softer now because he kind of sees that like there's more to this person than just being a soldier, just being a Spartan.
I don't know. I think he's pretty angry. I think he's angry with her as much as she's probably angry with him. I think there's a lot of like, they're both kind of, I think she's mad. He's mad. She wasn't there. Like she left. So there's a little bit of betrayal because like we were a team, like we grew up together, like, we've known each other all our lives kind of moment. And you weren't there. You left to go do this thing with Ackerson, right? And you're kind of like, what the fuck, right? And on her side, she's sort of like, hey, you're betraying everything. We used to, you should have followed orders. I'm following orders. Like we're soldiers. Like, why don't you fall in line? So I think they're both coming at it from their POVs, and it's just sort of all bubbling up to this moment. Which is, I don't know. It's a little hard. It was hard to watch. I thought like it was not in the sense that I don't know. I have a hard time. Kai just seems very, and it's part of the narrative storytelling. Like we're following Chief, so we're supposed to believe everything Chief does. Like it's his story, right? So he's the hero. So when Kai's kind of rubbing up against that, we sort of don't like her character. Like, and I'm inherently not liking what they're doing with her character because it feels like everything she's doing is counter to what should be the right thing to do, right? Because Chief is in the right. So it was hard to watch a character like Kai kind of like fall from grace, as it were, this far, right? To the point where she's willing to just beat the shit out of Chief for no reason, really. Kind of like it was hard to watch.
This is where my theory from earlier was coming into, though, because Chief is saying these things to Kai, and he's explaining like they left us with us there to die. They took our armor. And because she was like, I thought you died on Reach. And he's basically explaining like, yeah, because Oni and Ackerson left us there to die. They planned this. They knew about it. They let the planet die. And I think when Kai was hearing that, she processed it in a way that she was like, okay, how's the best action for me to proceed from here? Because again, this is going into the following scene with Kai when she's talking to Ackerson next. She proceeds to fight Chief and beat the shit out of him. She doesn't kill him. She does hesitate a couple of times. And then when she talks to Ackerson later, she's fully confronting him on everything Chief said. So I think she followed through with the beating him up for show to get back in the room with Ackerson to confront him.
Yeah, I mean that's what I thought was quite interesting is that like Dan, like you were saying, Chief like cannot touch Kai because she's got the armor on, and Chief's, I mean he's battling through broken bones and broken ribs, so he can't fight back. There's no way he wins that fight at all, and Kai flattens him, like beats him up against a couple of walls. You can see how much Chief is bleeding, and he does not fight back at all, which I thought was quite big. I thought that was pretty cool. Not that he would want to fight back, but that he didn't even block any of the attacks. And there's that scene where, or that part of the scene where like Kai's holding him and he's like looking into her eyes and saying, he looks at the camera and he's like, orders are orders. And he's like saying, do it. And maybe that is Chief kind of saying like, yeah, you have to put up this front. So kick my ass for the cameras, put on the show.
Interesting.
So maybe that's quite an interesting way to look at it.
It is interesting. I don't know if I quite feel like, I definitely felt like she was getting it out and following her orders, right? Because that's what she knows. But then
that's how I feel about it.
And then she's getting up there and actually now questioning if I did the right thing. I think letting him live was her defying orders, to be honest. I think it sounded like they were expecting her to kill him.
Because then
Yeah,
Ackerson
definitely.
says they're sending the Black Ops down to finish him afterwards.
Right, exactly. So in essence, she didn't really fail. I mean, in essence, she failed, right?
Yeah.
Like her mission, right? So there, I
Essentially,
think it was real up until the moment she decided not to kill him, right? I think it was all like, but yeah, it's an interesting take though, like that she's playing two sides or playing it to show. But I don't know if I buy it.
Because I just wanted to say this, there was some really cool dialogue between Kai and Chief in that scene as well, where Chief says to Kai, he says, "Just be there, Spartan." And he says, "Where does the Spartan end and where do you begin?" And I think, Dan, you were talking about it, I think before the show, you were saying that was quite similar to when Soren was escaping the augmentation camp or whatever in season 1 when they were younger. And he said something similar.
Yeah,
Was it Dan who said
I
that
was
earlier?
trying to make a comparison to that episode
Yeah.
where Soren originally escapes after augmentation and Chief tries to stop him. And there's a kind of like a back and forth of like, don't be a machine, don't just obey orders blindly. So it had kind of like some mirroring going on there.
So moving on from there, we see Parangoski and Ackerson have a bit of a conversation, and Parangoski actually justifies Ackerson, and he says, "Listen, you made the right call. It was a tough decision, but you made the right call about reach and everything." She even has a thing where she says, like, "Are you religious?" And he's kind of like, sort of like explaining it, and then she's like, "Yeah, well, then it doesn't matter." So it's like pretty interesting, and I'm gonna call it now. I think she's the new real bad guy. I think she's gonna be one that wants to like take the power of the Halo or something, and Ackerson is gonna revert. Ackerson's gonna like become a good guy or something. He's gonna like make a noble sacrifice or something like that. I don't know. I can see it happening.
Yeah, they're definitely giving him a little. It's good. They're giving him some shades of gray. He definitely is sort of teetering, right? Like there is definitely some doubt there that he's doing the wrong thing, and the things they did with his dad and his daughter early on were a lot of work there for a character that should probably just be simple and evil and die, like in our minds, right? Like, but they've given him a lot of good juicy backstory there for him to turn right, to kind of do the right thing. Where the Admiral kind of still feels very like
she's not grounded at all.
No, yeah. We could kill her and everyone would be like, yay. Yeah.
I mean, there's times where Ackerson kind of shows a little bit of remorse about what happened on Reach and things like that. So I feel like he's still got a bit of human to him. So we'll have to wait and see how that develops. But then Parangoski goes back into her office or her sort of bridge or wherever she is, and they're getting a message from an unknown frequency, and it's Cortana. And what happens, which was so cool in this scene, is that she's talking to Parangoski and she's giving information and things like that, but she can communicate with Chief somehow. How in the friggity fracking hell can she do that?
The speakers in the room.
Just super.
No, but it's not through speakers, is it? Because then they would hear Cortana speaking to Chief. She would be busted, surely.
Well, it's like when Chief's been alone, is whenever she talks to him, like no one's around him. And like, especially like later on, it's like, are you going to get that door or whatever? And then she doesn't say anything, just opens it. So she's just in the system and can like select which like audio output she has, which is how she avoids people knowing.
That's how
That's because I thought it cannot be the speaker systems because she would get busted. Like Parangoski would be like, "Oh, okay, we can see that someone's going through the speakers," and then figure out that Cortana's talking to Chief. I don't know. I felt like maybe there was some way she was like chatting to him through his implant, if it's still in there or something. I don't know. It's just a bit interesting. But yeah, anyway, so Cortana is talking to Chief, and Chief kind of unloads a little bit on her. He starts saying like, "Oh, I lost Vanek, I lost everyone in Reach," and like it very much feels like he wants Cortana back so badly because he felt so close to her for some reason. And I can't wait for them to be reunited, man.
Yeah, and it's weird that he misses her so much, considering like most of the first season he was so anti Cortana, like he didn't want. Like they didn't really build that relationship well enough for me to like feel like that yearning for her, or I don't know. It's kind of weird how they went the direction on that this season. Like I get that he wants her in the sense that he sees how valuable she is in a battle situation and or can manipulate like how powerful she is. But that connection, I think they need to spend more time on that. Kind of like what they do in the games, you really start to feel that closeness, right? Like where he's almost saving a lover, not a AI, right? Like it feels like
absolutely, yeah.
closer to that level of connection, which is interesting. In the games, you feel that. Here, I'm not quite sure they've delivered on that.
I mean, it's interesting in the scene as well that Cortana tells Chief that the Covenant are finding the Halo, and she needs him to get up because, like, she needs him to help, like, with the plan to stop the Covenant from finding the Halo. And she says to him, "You need to get up because you are the Master Chief." And then Chief is like, "Not anymore."
You're the Master Chief.
Not anymore.
That was like, what? Dude, this guy is broken. And it's like you're starting to really see the effects of all of the stuff. He doesn't believe he's the Master Chief anymore. He doesn't believe he's that strong anymore. And I wonder if they're gonna make it a Chief moment where he like just puts his armor back on and he's like, "Okay, I am Master Chief now." And I want to see him emotionally get back to that point instead of just putting on the armor so that we think, "Oh, it's just the armor. It's like Tony Stark and Iron Man kind of thing." And I think I'm gonna do it, guys. I'm gonna officially give up my hopes for Cortana to go back to her season 1 appearance because Chief didn't actually comment on her appearance at all.
Well, he hadn't seen her. Has he? Oh no, he did see her, didn't he? Did he? Or
He did see her. She appeared as a hologram. She
Okay.
appeared as a hologram, so she was definitely there, and he didn't say anything about it. That whole scene, I was like, just one line of Chief saying, "You look different," or something.
I know. Yeah,
I think
it is.
we officially put to rest season 1 Cortana.
I will remember you. Will you remember me?
It's drastic enough where you're like, it needs a call out, right? Somebody needs to put a pin in it. It's drastic.
I've researched.
Enough,
I've been like telling myself I'm not going to research it at all this whole season because I want to be surprised by like, oh, she's like gone back to her appearance. But apparently they changed it because fans didn't like it for some reason in season 1, and they wanted to make it look more like the game. So yeah, I'm going to officially say adieu to season 1 Cortana.
Yeah, not a big fan.
So sad. She looks so good in season 1.
Yeah.
Anyways, moving on from my grief, we find out that Cortana's been feeding the Admiral information on the Halo, and that was the mission. That was the thing that Parangosky wanted from Cortana, was for her to get information on Halo. And obviously now she's been, she's infiltrated the Covenant and been sharing some secrets there as well. And a pretty interesting thing, and this is what I wanted to talk about on Cortana, was she asks Parangosky, "Will I be remembered?" And Parangosky's like, "Yeah, of course we'll remember you." But doesn't that sound like a very human thing to say? Cortana sounds like she's getting a lot more sentient now. A lot more like she's showing a bit more empathy towards some characters, and it's a very human thing to say. It's not like an AI would say, "Will I be remembered?" Like an AI would be like, logically, you will be remembered.
That links back again, saying it to Halo 4, where Cortana, that's the whole like discussion is like, is she human? Is she a machine? Because she shows more of a Chief. It's like that whole thing. I think again, they're just like expediting that process for like this show's timeline.
Because that's also like in Halo 4, like there's the conversation between Chief and Cortana's like, who's more machine, you or me? So that they could be building up to that already, like what Tom is saying.
Yeah. Well, I guess my thing is like, what's if she's sentient, then what's her plan? Like, she's clearly playing lots of angles here. She's got Chief doing what she thinks is best for probably humanity, right? So Chief's gonna get to the Halo, right? Like that's her vessel, right? Like, but then she's sort of playing the Admiral and giving her whatever she wants, but she has to clearly know, like she even says like, your odds of defeating the fleet are, and then the Admiral cuts her off before she can say it because she doesn't care, right? Which is a strange thing to not to want to know. And then she's playing McKee for whatever reasons to stay out. I'm assuming to stay alive and also to do whatever she's able to do now. So it's a lot of. So I'm trying to understand. At what point is she like programmed to follow orders, right? Like, or is at one point she's sort of doing this to. Everything's there she's playing a long chess game to get the Chief to where he needs to be, which is on Halo. I don't know. I guess I'm a little lost. And I don't know if they need to explain it right away, but it's interesting is what I'm saying.
They could probably give Cortana a little focus in the near future. If it's not this season, then sometime in the beginning of next season, give a really good deep dive on Cortana and those, parameters that we don't understand.
Yeah, you're right. It needs that. It needs like a singular episode where Hazley and Cortana are doing something, or like a cold open or something where they explain some some of that. I think it needs it. Could be good. I think it'd be
Yeah.
good. Maybe it'll come. Who knows? Maybe it's there.
Don't you mean Halsey?
No, I'm going
See, I'm
after
not the
whatever.
only one who gets names
I'm
wrong.
going after whatever you say, Nick. I'm just following your
I've
lead.
never said
buddy.
Halsey wrong. I've never said Halsey wrong.
That we know of.
Yes, it's not just
I was
me.
wondering if you're going
that
to
we
call him
know
out
of.
on that.
Back to Halsey and Quan, and Halsey meets up with Miranda. It's Miranda, right?
Yes. Oh wait.
Okay, I was
Yeah.
just trying
Yeah,
to
yeah,
remember her
Miranda.
name because we
Sorry.
haven't seen her in ages.
And I was like, hey, it's
Yeah.
Miranda.
We haven't seen her in ages, but she's back. Miranda has been on Onyx, and she has been continuing Halsey's work, which is pretty interesting. So it looks like she's kind of picked up where Halsey left off. Not much to do with Halsey and Quan, so that's kind of the whole thing, unless you guys had anything else to say about them.
Other than the simple
This week-
notion that like Halsey seems to have this kind of like relief that she sees Miranda, and when Miranda sees her, she goes, Dr. Halsey, like completely cold, dead as ice, like Dr. Halsey, what are you doing here? You know? It's like that's her
Interesting
mom.
thing, though, is Halsey didn't actually say anything to Miranda about Keys' death.
True.
Does Miranda even know that Keys is dead? Surely
I would
she would know. I
assume she
mean,
knows.
presumed.
Like people died
she
on
would have
Reach,
at least
you would
heard
assume
that is presumed.
you could assume
Yeah.
that she died on Reach regardless because of just how many people died, and if they didn't make it somewhere else.
Yeah, they would have heard from them by now. I thought that was kind of interesting is that they didn't talk about Keys at all, but obviously, surely they're saving it for the next episode.
I think they're not talking about
Probably.
Keys so that we don't think about Keys, so that when he shows up at the season finale, like, oh, he's still alive.
Dude, I'm gonna hate it. I'm gonna hate it. I'm gonna hate it.
Everyone's gonna hate me.
Oh God. No, I'm not
I
gonna
would
hate
hate
you.
you.
I'm gonna
I'm
hate
for
the
it.
show. Like, just kill. I hate it when they do when they're like, "Oh, you didn't see the body, so like we can bring." Fucking the guy died. Leave him alone. Let him rest in peace. I loved Keys. I loved him, but no, he needs to stay dead. Sorry, Keys.
Yeah, one thing you have to learn: if
Anyways.
dance if someone's not dead, they're not dead.
Oh fuck. Say Vanek's not dead. Say it.
No, I said he was.
Anyways, we move on. We move on to Soren and Lyra, who got very little screen time in this episode, and the only thing that we really see from them is that they discover this. I think it was a ship they discover, which Soren calls Thermopylae.
Yes.
Is it Thermopylae?
Thermopylae.
And then they immediately, Soren's like, "We got to get out of here," and they turn tail and head out immediately.
think-
And that is from the game, I believe.
that was a Spartan training center, and they were about to run a drill. That's why he was like, "We got to get out of here." Thermopylae, of course, referring to like the Spartans in their battle, like the 300 kind of thing. The Spartans all learn about that in their training.
I was going to say Thermopylae is another a name or reference to Greek history and things like that. So I like how there's these little ties to like little things. It's very cool. Anyways, so we get back to Kai, and Kai meets up with Ackerson, and Ackerson actually sent Kai in. He chose her to go in there and confront Chief, which is pretty interesting. And this scene, I feel like he shows a bit of remorse. He starts telling Kai about the entire thing. He tells Kai about what happened on Reach and how they had to make the tough decisions. And this is what I was talking about earlier, where it seems like Ackerson is actually showing some remorse, where like he did it because that's his orders and that's what he needed to do. But he's like, I actually feel really bad for what I've done now, though, which I feel like is quite interesting. But at this point, I think Kai, like we were saying earlier, I think Kai is now really starting to piece it together, and she questions everything.
I also took that bit with Ackerson as just more of him trying to play her, like play up the feel remorse for me kind of thing.
It could be. I mean, I feel like Ackerson really could go either way, which is that's why I think his character is so good. But yeah, Kai then starts to question everything. She starts to question the training, like the exfil glitch, or how there's no one to exfil them and things like that. She starts questioning that. She starts thinking about the other things. And Ackerson obviously then, explains everything to Kai, which Kai is now finally, in the know. She kind of knows everything. And like I think Danny was saying earlier, she 100% believes Chief. And she's like, bam. And she heads to save Chief. They end like the simulation that they're in, and immediately Kai's heading off. She's like, okay, she's gonna go follow Chief again. She's gonna go save Chief. And Ackerson says it's too late. He's already sent the Black Ops. Who are the Black Ops? Is that a reference to anyone in the game? Or is it just
No,
like
black
there's
ops.
just the black ops?
Just Oni Black
Just
Ops.
There's always the
Black
black
Ops
ops and some kind of militia, so it makes sense.
kill sort of deal.
But yeah, so Kai heads off to go and save Chief, and we don't get to see. And I thought we were going to see some kind of fight at the end, but we don't get to see that sort of happen just yet. But then there are all kinds of system malfunctions around Chief as Cortana starts leading him somewhere, and she starts telling him, you've got to go through this door. And like you're saying earlier, there's like a little keypad or whatever, and Chief is like, "Can you handle that?" And Cortana like opens this door, and we find out that she's been leading him to the Forerunner artifact. And we go back to McKee, and she's in a little bit of trouble. They found out about the transmission that they've sent to the UNSC and everyone. The priest demands that she be killed, and it's pretty interesting how this is like. What did the Arbiter say? I don't actually have it written down, but he kind of says something along the lines of like, "I need to deal with the non-believers.
Will stick with me, and those that won't are against me," or something along those lines. So like, basically, anyone who's with the Arbiter, like they know, he's basically saying to them, if you're on my side, like if you know, because like then he attacks, and then like you can see they immediately start splitting, and like he gets his people, they get their people, and they just start fighting.
And there's just a big crazy fight scene. Everyone with their plasma swords, and they're just going at it. I did think in the scene that it was going to be the Arbiter just slicing off the priest's head.
I thought so,
and then everyone else was going to be like, "Whoa. Okay, well, we behind you, dude." But there is a bit of a fight. And I thought that was interesting because it feels like they may be hinting at it symbolically to say that this is going to be like an internal conflict between the Covenant. Maybe there's like a bit of not a civil war kind of thing, but maybe, again, like we say, I think the Arbiter is going to become the heretic, and he's going to maybe branch or start a branch of the Covenant that are going to fight.
I mean, if it's not leading up to the heretic, it could be building up to the events of Halo 2, where the Covenant starts to fall apart because of internal struggles.
That's what I'm kind of thinking. That could be something. So Quan and the Flood and this idea with the heretic could be things that they're hinting at to give, some more substance to season 2, and that's the kind of stuff they'll go into in season 3. So they're going to focus Halo now, but they're sort of dropping some little hints at what we'd look forward to in the future,
like the Halo 5 Haley Civil War as well, like just where elites fight elites. But I think Dan's more right with the Halo 2 sort of deal.
While this whole battle is going on with the Arbiter taking out people, McKee then starts crawling on the ground. She's terrified at what's going on because she has absolutely no idea, like, if she's going to live right now. I mean, the Arbiter could lose this fight, or she could get like a plasma sword just like dropped on her. Like, it's crazy. So she's terrified, but she starts crawling towards the big Forerunner artifact that they have. And as she starts getting closer to it, we see Chief approaching his smaller artifact, and they get closer and closer and closer and closer, and then boom, credits. And that's the end of the episode. I mean, a bit of a cliffhanger.
Loved and hated that.
Yeah.
I kind of really wanted to see it, but it's good to kind of keep the excitement to like
get you like
have to see what happens now.
To be fair, the one word, the two words I said after that like cliffhanger was just "fuck off."
Oh, I thought you would have said blue balls. Again.
I saw it coming a mile away. Like, and
we've been blue balled again. I didn't think that. I mean, after that episode, I thought, nah, we've had enough. Like, I don't have to like amp it up more. But it would have been cool if they touched it and then they saw each other on the Halo and then they ended it. But maybe they're not going to see each other. Maybe
they won't, though,
McKee
because McKee's
can't.
connection is dead.
That's the thing. But I'm thinking maybe that now that Chief is touching his artifact at the same time McKee is touching hers, maybe McKee's connection will be restored. Kind of like when you unplug your router and plug it back in.
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Like, Chief is touching his artifact. I was thinking about like, oh yeah, he's just masturbating.
Oh man.
He touched his sacred artifact, but McKee is also touched.
McKee is touching Chief's sacred artifacts. Oh god, this is a dirty episode. Dirty episode.
Osmosis, baby.
On those bombshells.
Osmosis, baby.
Oh boy, on those bombshells and that dirty notes, let's we've just recapped the whole episode 6. We got 2 episodes left, guys. Do you think we're gonna get a double episode drop for the season finale?
Nah,
there's no reason to. I don't think so.
There's no reason to. Fair enough. I haven't actually checked the dates, but I'd assume that we're going to get 2 more weeks. So you're stuck with us for at least another 2 weeks. But that was episode 6, Onyx. I was very excited to see this episode, and I'm glad it delivered. So why don't we head straight into our scoreboard for episode 6? Alrighties. Who's going first? Should we start with Drew? Drew, hit it.
I episode rating. I really this is it's a good solid app, right? It's again there's a lot of building here. And I have a hard time giving any sci-fi show a bad rating because it's a great sci-fi show, right? Like it's sort of like it's still checking all the boxes I love, right? Like it had cool action, space battle, space jumping. It's got like political intrigue. It's got people doing dumb things for the right reasons, and aliens. It's checking all of my boxes. So it's hard for me to give this a bad rating, but it still felt like I don't know. I guess I want things to move faster. I don't know why. Like, I guess I'm excited. Here it is. I want Master Chief to have his fucking armor and to do cool shit in his armor. Right. And until that happens, I'm never going to give an episode that doesn't have the Chief in his armor doing badass shit in his armor. I'm never going to give it more than an 8. So I'm going to give this a 7.5. And that to me is still pretty fucking solid for this episode. Yeah, but that's kind of where I'm landing. It's still good. Yeah. It's still all great. I can't really hark on anything. Even all the nitpicks I have, it's still fun.
I enjoyed it. Like there was cool stuff happening. Chief, beating up random UNSC people was fun to watch, especially like as we said, gets punched and just goes whew.
Super soldier.
Yeah, I kind of wish there was a bit more to the Chief Kai discussion and fight, even because it did feel very sort of like bang 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 bang. So that was like the whole episode, really. Like everything happened really fast, and they jammed a lot in. And it just didn't have enough. I didn't feel like I had enough time to breathe, but still enjoyed it. So I'd be 7 out of 10.
Okay. So yeah, another slower episode with some cool action moments though. We got some really dope action moments. I freaking loved that space jump action sequence right at the beginning. It was so really well shot, and I thought it was just awesome, like a great way to open the episode. But other than that, everything was pretty slow. But I think the show is doing a really great job at getting to the point on some things, and giving us something to chew on every single week instead of kind of beating around the bush and slowing it down to fill up these episodes. Because this is a filler episode to an extent. That we did progress the plot a little bit, but it didn't really do a lot. I don't like to say filler for this episode though, so I think what I want to call it is like a pacing episode, because what they did was they slowed things down, but they did a really good job at still raising some stakes and the emotional tension and things like that, which I really enjoyed about this week's episode. I liked it. I think it's a solid episode. I think it's setting up a lot of cool shit for the last 2 episodes. I like what they've done with Ackerson. I like how Kai's returned. I mean, fuck Kai is what we're saying for a while, but I'm kind of like mildly fuck Kai now. I'm coming back around because I think she's definitely gonna be on Chief's side again come episode 7, next week's episode. So like I said, it's like cool little pacing, like a slowdown episode just to keep building things up, but I like how the tension was still there and how things were amped up. So this one I'm gonna give an 8 out of 10 because I really enjoyed the action sequences and I think they did a good job with the tension and things. So I like this one.
I like this one as well. I think it was a pretty good episode all around. And I noticed something as I was watching this episode. I found myself just getting that kind of like, I don't know what you would call it, like a comfort with when it comes to watching a show. And I don't know if there's a cinephile word for this, of like, I'm hitting that point with this show where I just genuinely enjoy watching it, just regardless, because I enjoy the writing, I enjoy the characters, I enjoy the shots, I enjoy the cinematography, the action. And it was just this like realization of like, this is a show that I enjoy watching just because I do. And like that, I think that means a lot for me because I don't watch a lot of shows. I don't watch a lot of television and I don't watch a lot of movies. So for something to have that effect, I think is a good thing. For this episode specifically, I enjoyed a lot about it. I think it did do a lot for the story, especially because you got that bit at the end where Cortana's talking to Chief and leading him, and it felt a little reminiscent of the games as you're like watching doors opening and closing, and Cortana's like leading him along and explaining like how she's doing things. And it's not quite there, but it's kind of given us a little bit of an IV drip of like what we want to see happen, what we're hoping for. There was a brief moment too at that point when the door was closed, and I forgot that Cortana had said that she needs him to go touch the artifact, and I was waiting for the doors to open and see the Mjolnir armor and be like, "Oh!"
I was thinking that too,
and I was like, "Ah!" And then it was the Forerunner artifact, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that's right, that has happened first. Maybe next week we'll get that."
I was thinking that exact same thing. I was thinking we're about to see the armor and he's about to put that shit on. I did exactly the same thing.
Yeah, I wanted that. But yeah,
sorry,
I'm
go
glad
ahead.
that it stayed pretty well focused on Chief. I would have liked more with Kai, but I'm going Team Kai here. I think Kai's gonna come around. I don't think Kai ever went hard fuck everyone. I think it was just a lot of her being like manipulated and not knowing the truth. And ultimately, I enjoyed the entirety of the episode in all of its aspects, the highs and the lows. I'm glad that some of the side stuff was really quick and short and sweet, but then the better moments like had really great stuff to them, especially the shots with the Arbiter. Like, I'm glad to get more of those cool Covenant alien shots. Like, I want more of those.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give this one an 8 as well. I think this one was pretty good.
Solid. I mean, just to echo what you were saying about the show being like a comfort show, it's a very easy show to watch now that we're kind of getting into it. And it's like I was saying the other day, I really feel like this show has hit its stride. That it's kind of figured out what it wants to do. It figured out this is what a Halo TV show is, and it's nailing that. And week after week, it's like we know what this is now. We understand everything. We're in it, and I have to echo that and say I'm also just, it's so easy to just slap it on and be like, I'm excited to watch this new episode.
I wonder what it would be like if we had done this show last season and we got to the episode of the osmosis and we'd be like, fuck this show.
Fuck this shit. Like rage flip
This
table.
is dumb.
Why are they banging? I mean, did they bang though? Did they actually? It was like a more spiritual experience.
No, there was penetration.
Oh gosh, everyone hated it. Anyways, so that is episode 6 of Halo Season 2. We have 2 episodes left, guys. 2 episodes left. We're coming up to, I think they're going to do a big thing for the finale. So that's going to be exciting. I'm very excited to see how they wrap up the story for Season 2. But that is this week's episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're in the live premiere with us on YouTube, say hi. Put something, type osmosis in the chat right now. Do it. But otherwise, join us again next week on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. PST over here on YouTube. You can join us a day early if you become a member over at CouchSoup. So do that, and there's a whole bunch of other cool stuff if you become a member too. Maybe you can listen to us talk about dirty things on there and hear Tom said again. I think we should get a swear jar for this show. That'll be fun. That'd be great. That's a way to raise money. But yeah, join CouchSoup, become a member, do all that stuff. You can also listen to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. And for everything else that you like, cool, weird, wonderful, everything to do with pop culture, keep it locked in here on CouchSoup. And we will see you next week, Spartans. See you then.
Osmosis.
Osmosis. I'm going to have like a slow zoom right on that. What? Dad bod. Dad bod.
Undead, not osmosis.